We're going. We're petting the monkey butt because she's a good dog. Yes, she's such a good dog. Yes, you are. You're a good dog. You're a good dog. Okay. And give people time, a chance, perhaps, to watch whatever little videos pop up. And then they all want to wait and see the intro. Shablam, shablickety block. Woohoo! All right. Well, it is Houston with a Problem, livecast 115. So AMC and MMAT gave their earnings yesterday. AMC's revenue was up a cajillion percent. Still didn't turn a profit, which I thought was surprising. I was hoping that they would turn a profit on the quarter. But, you know, the losses were small compared to what they had been during the rest of COVID. And the stock price really hasn't budged. Metamaterial, on the other hand, reported an increase in revenue of over 764%. And their stock price has just been getting hammered. Still no news on possible MMTLP dividend. But I find it interesting that like, it's pretty much been revealed that Metamaterial is going to have the contract for printing U.S. dollars, like the modern U.S. dollars, with their nanosecurity technology. That's going to mean regular revenue as a federal contract and a lot of money in the future. Plus, you know, they're doing millions in revenue and still have not finished their factory yet, which is under construction. So there's, you know, nothing but potential upside there. Plus the potential of, you know, billions in cash flowing in and out via the sale of the oil lands of Texas from the Torch merger. So that's crazy. Due date for Evergrande, next payment of their interest is $2.1 billion on March 23rd. They're not going to make it. If they're lucky, they'll be granted forbearances. But my guess is that their February payment was only like $2 million. And there's a big giant balloon payment starting this month. And then basically carries out a couple billion a month for the next, you know, 20 years. they're not going to be able to pay for shit. And then what else, monkey? The Moscow exchange refused to open again. So you can't buy or sell on the exchange. Their currency has completely collapsed. The Kremlin said no one's allowed to leave the country with more than $10,000 in cash. So there's likely a giant run happening on crypto as people are going to try and basically launder whatever funds they can out of the country. Sribank is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And so all its branches across Europe are closed. Russia said that they are not going to pay any interest on the $29 billion they owe this coming month. So essentially Russia has defaulted and gone bankrupt. And now there is a task force basically to hunt down and seize any and all Kremlin-connected oligarch funds. How they're doing this, I'm not sure. But my guess is that they'll seize the obvious stuff first that's in their name or whatever. And then they're going to start, we'll have a special task force whose job it is to go through these shell companies. And they're going to be forensic accountants whose job it is, probably by the hundreds, to go through these shell companies and find any little tendril, you know, going here and there. I would guess that there's probably upwards of $10 billion in the names of these folks invested into the U.S. markets, whether through family funds, hedge funds, ownership of tech stocks. Like there's a Russian guy that owns a bunch of like Twitter, Google, and Facebook. His name's not coming to me, but anyway, these guys have some billions of dollars in these tech stocks, and then. Once they get the obvious ones out of the way, they're going to look for these offshore accounts that are invested in the U.S. markets and real estate, and doing that they're going to have to go through these shell companies, try to find any ownership or whatever, and then they're going to see which hedge funds have taken their money. And my guess is there's going to be a lot of familiar names with big investments from like Cayman accounts and Panama accounts in some of these hedge funds we know very well that are connected to oligarchs. And then they're going to seize that stuff, which I'm not sure how that's going to work. Because I mean, if you seize a piece of physical property, like real property, a townhouse in Manhattan or something that's owned by a Russian oligarch, you seize it, and then you like put it up for auction with the U.S. Marshal Service. That's pretty simple. But if you have $500 million invested with a hedge fund through a shell company in the Caymans, you may seize that ownership in that hedge fund, but how do you liquidate? Do you just say, give me my money, and the government takes it? I'm not sure. No, excuse me. Pollen season, man. It's killing me. Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. Where it's going to be a slow process because, you know, some of these hedge funds might be 20, or some of these shell companies might be like 20 shell companies deep before you get, you know, shell company leads a shell company, leads a shell company, leads a shell company, and on and on and on and on and on, which goes to some P.O. box owned by a former mistress who, you know, drives around in a 1997 Toyota Tercel in some village in France. Right? Like she doesn't actually have access to any of this stuff, but it's all in her name for, you know, some Russian oligarch. Abramovich, you know, the guy that owns Chelsea, is apparently selling the soccer team and going to donate all the proceeds to Ukraine, which is probably his way of like, don't take the rest of my shit. The oligarchs are all claiming like, I don't have anything to do with Putin. I know nothing about Putin. But we all know that's a bunch of bullshit. Those guys got power because they all came up at the same time. And the only reason you can control big companies like that is because Putin and the Kremlin machine gave you the permission to control those big companies. So we're just the beginning. There's going to be more and more steps along the way, and I'm curious to see. I mean, I would love to have the training as a forensic accountant to be able to go through all this stuff and just like pick through it and go, ooh, this document's interesting. It goes to this company, and just follow those like little trails along the way. I'm sure there's gonna be lots of amateur sleuths who are also doing this. They'll be like giving tips to the Department of Justice and Treasury and those guys. If anyone knows of any Twitter accounts that are doing that, let me know. I would love to see them and follow them. Okay. Amy R, looking forward to listening to your wonderful chatter whilst I toilet work. Oh, Amy, thank you. Sometimes my chatter is wonderful. Sometimes my chatter is not. Curious One Houston, give Monkey Butt my love. I lost my buddy 3 years ago. He lived 16 years. Hiked all over the Rocky Mountains in Alberta with him. Love the work. You're doing all the best. Oh, Monkey. You get all the love, buddy. Even though you want to show the entire world your good side. There you go. Paratarian, I know you're not an astrophysicist, but I am. Would you expect the James Webb to find anything interesting within the Great Attractor? Also, Ryan Cohen tweeted. Yeah, Ryan Cohen tweeted something about an apple. I have no idea. My guess is it has to do with Apple has some sort of product launch next week. But I don't know why that would be associated with GameStop. Who knows? But the Great Attractor, I think, you know, there's basically a supercluster of galaxies in there. It's really hard for us to see because we have to look through part of the Milky Way to see it. But there's a supercluster that they call Vela, and that's probably what the Great Attractor is. Yeah. Okay. And also, I forgot, if was to when, could, where not, should, when be, tough question, I know, but I have confidence in you. I'm going to say that all signs point to yes. Okay, Kellerus, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Please teach us how the Scandinavian mountains came to be. you guys can't see what I'm doing here. Boom, got to do that. Got to put on the Chrome. Come on. There we go. Scandinavian mountains. Okay, these are the mountains in Norway. And they basically curve up Norway and go over the north of the country. They're beautiful. I took a train ride over them once. Essentially, it's this big mountain range that kind of goes up the spine of Norway and bleeds into Sweden and eventually Finland in the north. If we do the Google Earth thing, turn that sucker on, and we get out of here, and we fly around the world, and we jump in here, and we look at this. You can see the mountain range based from the snow-covered areas along these satellite photos. This mountain range is also Proto-Appalachians. So you can see the spreading ridge between Greenland and Norway. And where Greenland slapped into Norway is similar to where the eastern United States and Canada smacked into North Africa, where the Atlas Mountains are in Morocco. So this mountain range in Morocco is related to this mountain range in Norway. They were created about the same time, 350, 400 million years ago, when there was big Pangea continent, supercontinent, and the mountain range was huge. We're talking, 30,000 feet tall. So similar to what the Himalayas are today. And then the spreading ridge formed, and these mountain ranges spread apart, and they've been eroding ever since. Now, the ones in Norway are a bit more impressive than I think the Appalachians are, which is kind of strange because they get a lot more glaciation up here regularly, which grinds them down. But there's a lot of granite up here, and so a lot of the minerals that you find in here, you find also in the mountain ranges of Greenland. And actually, it was Wagner, the guy the meteorologist that proposed continental drift. Continental drift, Wagner. Oops. Wegener, sorry. I bet I said his name wrong. Alfred Wegener. So Alfred Wegener was a early 20th century meteorologist, and he basically was doing some work. He was on a team that was digging fossils and cliffs in Greenland, and he's digging fossils out, and he's like, these fossils look exactly the same as the fossils I've dug out of Norway. That's weird. He looked at a map, and he did the thing that all kids do. They go, Africa and South America look like they fit together. Or there may be North America and Africa. And he just was like, I wonder if these plants have drifted over time. And he wrote a paper, basically with his hypothesis. Hey, I think the planet moves, and that over millions of years, these things have drifted apart because these fossils match up all over the world. And all the geologists were like, you big dumb loser. The Earth doesn't do that. The Earth is pretty static, you idiot. And Wegener basically died penniless and humiliated. And then, I don't know, 30 years later, after World War II ended, we had all these ships with sonar and radar and all sorts of stuff. We funded all these seafloor mappings, and we discovered the Mid-Atlantic Spreading Ridge, which is this big volcanic conveyor belt pumping out new seafloor and pushing the continents apart. And we're like, sorry, Wegener, we made a mistake. You're right, we're wrong. Oops. And he was vindicated from that result. So that's where the Scandinavian mountains come from. There you go. Back to Big Q. Oh, mother fudger. Well, just gonna drink from the turn off the intro cup, and then go over here and turn off the intro. No, turn it off. Don't just... Okay, so Scandinavian mountains were built out of Houston's Rage. Okay. Okay. Say my name. Say it. Did you see USA Today? Some scientists said Earth's inner core is super ionic. made of hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Also said it's unlike any solid or liquid form. Yeah, we talked about that the other day. I don't buy it. I don't think that's. I just don't think it's the case. Simply because of the way differentiation works. Granted, there are some lighter particles that are stuck inside that molten core. A lot of the radioactive decay that keeps the core warm is from these lighter particles, from like things like tritium and stuff. But I don't think it's in enough numbers for it to make this weird superionic slurry. Simply because when we get chunks of metal from outer space meteorites, that were these iron nickel asteroids. The iron nickel asteroids were the metal cores of old protoplanets that got blasted apart. And when those planets were forming, they were lots of collisions of asteroids and comets and a lot of energy, and it just made this whole thing molten goo. And then when it's molten goo and you have a gravitational center, all the heavy stuff sinks to the center and all the light stuff floats to the outside. Now, before the mantle or the lithosphere can kind of freeze and block the transfer of a lot of this stuff, most of that lighter material goes to the outside. So on the Earth, the surface of the Earth is like 3.5 to 4.5 grams per cubic centimeter. But the core is 15 grams per cubic centimeter because it's full of iron and nickel and uranium and gold and lead and all these like super heavy elements that are inside there. And how oxygen and hydrogen and I can't remember all the gases that they said would be trapped in there to make this slurry, how they would get trapped in there in any significant numbers to form the superionic fluid, I just don't understand how that would be, because all that stuff would have just naturally gravitated out from the center, and you wouldn't have very much left in there. So I don't know. I think it's a hypothesis that somebody worked up doing some mathematical modeling, but I just don't think in all reality that would be the case. I'm skeptical. Let's put it that way. Fabrizio, I'm gonna launch you into the moon, man. Is there any cool collapsed calderas in the African region? Starting now. Okay. Oh shit! I think I've missed super chat here. I did miss super chat from Deck P. Citadel, 57 billion securities sold, but not yet purchased. How do they get away with this? Happy birthday! They get away with it because they have a superpower that we do not have, which is they don't have to. That's their superpower. Like, you should probably purchase that stuff. It's like, no. And everyone's like, oh, well, fair enough. It's incredible. Like, there's nothing that can hold their feet to the fire. And even the new transparency rules are proposed would make it so guys like Citadel wouldn't have to reveal short positions or what they're naked on or anything. It's just stupid. It's absolutely just a dumb system. And I don't know why they get that superpower and no one else does. I mean, why can't I just declare myself a market maker and refuse to and just sell naked shares to everyone and be like, hey, I'm a market maker. Dario Salinas, do you ever hunt for a Sasquatch? I gave up hunting for Sasquatch years ago. I used to, like when I was a kid, I'd run around the forest by my house looking for it. But I don't know, I never found one. And I've done enough hiking in the woods in a lot of remote locations where human beings don't visit very often. No Sasquatch is there either. And I never heard about like a Sasquatch getting dragged by a mountain lion to a kill den. Never found any bones of one. So, yeah. So there you go. All right. Fabrizio, I'm going to go past you because you're... Coffee, donuts, and Homer. What's the deal with metamaterial price plunge? Exactly. They had good news in their quarterly report. No debt, money in the bank, increased revenue. What gives? What gives is whenever you get good news from a hedge fund, they're going to try and... or good news from a company that's shorted, the hedge fund's going to try and slam it down. So they shorted it like crazy because they need to keep that price down. And generally, you know, the rule is buy on rumors, sell on news. And so oftentimes when you get like rumors that a report is going to be really good, people will buy, and build up. And the minute the news comes out, they sell. So combined with that good news sell thing, the hedge funds will slam it down. But none of us are selling. But the price is so cheap, we're not making huge profits off of any of that. So, like, why? I don't know. I'm seriously thinking of over the next month buying a boatload of metamaterial and probably big calls because they're so cheap right now. You can get, well, how cheap can I get like a $9 call for metamaterial? Go back. Boom. Go there. Go to. Man, it's $1.67, man. Just got hammered down. Okay, trade options. If I do July 15th, yeah, $9 call, $8 call is 8 cents. All right. So, you could pick up 400, 500 of them for a few grand. And let's do a little math time. A little math time for us. Turn off Google Earth. Got to turn off Chrome, and we're going to the calculator. Okay, so if it's 8 cents for an $8 call, right? So that becomes $8 for one call. And you want to buy 800 of them, right? You spend $6,400, which is, it's a good chunk of change. That's a chunk of money. But you have 800 calls for $6,400. Now let's say this thing squeezes the way we think it might squeeze, which is MMTOP offers a big dividend. The hedge funds that were short on Torchlight aren't able to pay that dividend and are liquidated and forced to cover or close their positions by buying metamaterial, right? And so metamaterial stock goes to the roof. Plus, if a big dividend is offered, metamaterial probably gets a windfall of $500 million to $1 billion because of all the shares of Torchlight they own. And, let's say the stock price goes to $100, which I don't think is out of this world. I mean, it already hit 21 back in June of this year on the merger news. So hitting $100 when, millions of shares are forced to be buying, I don't think it's too out of this world. It's all speculation on my part. It's not financial advice, not a financial advisor. But somehow you come up with 800 calls and, clear. And the price goes to $100, right? Goes to $100. Your premium basically is over the $8, so $92 in gains on top of whatever the speculation was on that. So that's $92 per share times 100 shares. Times 100 shares times 800 calls. Boom, $7.3 million for a $6,000 investment. If you're trying to get 800 calls at that range. And that's if it goes to $100. It may only go to 20. Even then, you still made, a lot. So I may slowly start YOLOing into a bunch of those calls and just kind of see what happens with that lotto ticket. I don't know. I really want the dividend to be announced, and I think we're just gonna be stuck waiting. Sometime this month, those shares transfer over into Oil Co. But beyond that, I don't know when to expect any other news. I don't know. Bill Cohen, hypothetical. Putin has millions of shorts. Bought out of country. Starts war. Forces squeeze. Rich enough to build military, etc. Then stops war. All paid for by the USA? That would work great unless the U.S. government finds and seizes all those assets. Right? So if there's a shell company in the Caymans or in Panama or Cyprus or whatever that bought all those shorts, all those stocks, now it belongs to the U.S. government, or it belongs maybe to the Cypriot government, or to the Panamanian government, or whatever. So then the U.S. benefits from that, and Putin gets nothing, right, monkey? Putin gets nothing. Yeah, you want to come up here and say hi? Yes, you do. You're just what you doing? Sniffing? You're a weird sniffer. Okay. Yes, oh, you're such a cute dog. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're a sweet dog. Yeah. You're a sweet dog. Get up here. Come on. Get up there. Okay. What was I talking about before I fall in love with my dog? Yeah, so I don't know if they would. They've got about $600 billion in their central bank full of foreign reserves, gold, crypto, things like that. But they're burning through it in a hurry. I mean, they've lost 200 tanks. That's $1 billion right there, right? I mean, those T90s, they're 4.5 million each. The T14s are 3.5 million each. The T72s are like 5 million. So you're losing 200 plus tanks. You just lost $1 billion, and that's no small chunk of change. The logistics that are happening with trying to support this military are just falling apart. They're losing their fuel trucks. Stories are that Russian soldiers are sabotaging their own equipment so that they run out of gas quicker and they can just abandon their equipment and walk home. They're giving up by the hundreds to the Ukrainian forces because they don't want to kill. This is their family basically. They don't want to kill them. I saw a video of these guys that were in tanks, and the tanks ran out of gas, and they got captured by the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians asked them, like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And they're like, "We were told to drive our tanks to Kiev." And they're like, "Well, why? Were you given orders to kill us Ukrainians?" They're like, "No, they said that we were supposed to go and help you." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So a lot of these soldiers are totally under the impression that they were supposed to go and like help the Ukrainians, and they don't understand why these airstrikes are blowing them up, because they thought that they were going to be welcomed, and they're discovering they aren't, and they're realizing that the leadership lied to them. This is costly and expensive, and I think this is the result of, you've got a dictator that's been entrenched for 20 plus years. Anyone who's disagreed with him or presented information he didn't like, he kills or sends off to Siberia or poisons with polonium or whatever. And so you end up distilling out of that not any critical voices, but a whole bunch of yes men who know how to toe the line and massage your ego. And so when you present an idea that's like, "I'm going to invade Ukraine," and they'd be like, "Excuse me, that's a dumb idea," they won't say it. They'll be like, "Oh, it's brilliant. Yes, whatever you want. I think we should send in 200,000 troops. And just one giant wave, and not have any waves follow it." And the generals were like going back in their minds to like how blitzkriegs happen and how many phases you need, and they're like, "Yeah, that's totally brilliant." And maybe Putin was like, "And we're going to buy a whole bunch of GameStop and AMC and stick them in this account." And the general's like, "Totally." And now it's all getting seized. So we might be in a very weird place here where the U.S. government might own we're talking tens or hundreds of billions of dollars in assets all of a sudden, which is a very strange windfall to have. I mean, I don't think the Treasury or Budget Office counted on possibly having, $500 billion plus dollars in extra assets of the U.S. government. And I think, if we don't give it to the Ukrainians or something like that, we should create a sovereign wealth fund like every other nation in the world and use investments to help pay for the future. Why not? Okay. Nathan 98, Houston. If you could take a time machine and observe any historical period of human history or natural occurrence, where would you go, or what would you want to see? Ooh. Man. Okay, I'd be much more interested in like geological formations than human history, because like humans are gross, whatever. But like there's some really cool formations that if I travel back in time, I'm assuming I can't come back, so I may as well YOLO. Natural. Okay, the Oklo reactor in Gabon. This thing is rad. Let me punch it into... Oops, you guys can't see what anything I'm doing. So I gotta go back to the Chrome. So this is... Basically, there was a really uranium-rich magma flow that happened in Africa like a couple billion years ago. And it caused a chain reaction inside the lava flow and basically made a nuclear reactor, like a natural nuclear reactor. And it's pretty crazy how they formed. Yeah. Dude, go away. Get out of here. And so the Oklo formation, gotta pump that sucker into the ye old Google Earth here. Gotta go Google Earth. Gotta go Google Earth. Come on. Bing, bing. Oklo formation. Oklo. Come on. Take me there. There we go. Alrighty. Yeah, this is where it is. So this is an ancient lava hotspot, 2 billion years old, and it was basically this just giant plug of magma that was so full of uranium that the decay of beta particles were happening inside the uranium, and it was knocking apart other chunks of uranium, which was causing those to hit other parts, and he's got this natural chain reaction. And so this became sort of like a giant Chernobyl 2 billion years ago, and was natural Earth that did it. It's really awesome. And now there's like people that live here because these are uranium mines in the area, because there's lots of uranium there. It's pretty cool. I would, if I'm YOLOing, I would love to see what a nuclear lava field looks like, at least for like 20 minutes until all the beta decay carved out my eyeballs and melted my skin and, liquefied my organs, and then that'd be it. How about that one for an answer? That work for you guys? Why not? I'll come up with another one. Okay. Chakuseki, with Russia's economy in free fall and increasing sanctions, what are Putin's options? Does his economic pincer move guarantee him to increase aggression to save face? Yes. The thing is that he was going to do it anyway. I don't know if you guys saw the map. I tweeted it. Okay. So Lukashenko's map essentially had... don't you dare. Don't you dare. Okay, here we go. Oh, again, you're not seeing it because I don't have it turned on. That's what I keep forgetting to do. Go away. Go away. So Lukashenko's map here, he's talking about the Belarusian and Russian groups that are invading. And in the map area, they show like where the waves of invasion are coming from. And down here, in the very, very bottom corner, it's showing Russia going to into Moldova. So go back to the map. I can zoom in. Show me that map. Show me that map, baby. Of course, the pixels are absolutely terrible. You can't see squat. And standing there and getting this thing. Okay, there we go. Pause it. All right. So you see this wave here? This is a shaded area on the eastern side of Moldova, which is a slightly contested zone, which basically Russia is probably going to do the same thing they've been doing in eastern Ukraine, which is Russia's going to move in, declare this skinny part of Moldova independent state, and then stick in, their Russian military counterparts as leaders, and then start take over what is the poorest nation in Eastern Europe, or in Europe in general. On this show, I talked about how Russia will take Moldova next. And this is their map is showing it right here. So the Russian aggression is going to happen regardless of whether we sanction them and do economic pincer moves or whatever. It's going to happen. This is their goal is to reunite the Soviet Union. Now, it may accelerate aggression on Putin's part, but what they've weighed is if they do nothing, Putin invades anyway. If they do something, Putin invades and threatens nuclear war. And that doing something is freezing all the assets of these oligarchs who also have lots of power. And a lot of the generals are oligarchs, and their finances are now frozen. And they can't make their weapons deals or move oil or anything else. And so if Putin's decisions, which are, I'm going to take over the world, affect the bottom line of these hundreds of oligarchs who now have nothing, they may turn on him. Because they had life was good, man. They had big boobed Russian ballerina girls on their boats. They had penthouses in New York and, big mansions in London. They had, secret lairs and private islands and they had the good life, man. They owned soccer teams and basketball teams and, they got to travel the world, hang out with the glitterati and, nail supermodels and all that stuff. And all of a sudden they got nothing. They're going to turn around and they are going to take Putin out for us, and I think that's the goal there, because Putin is going to do this anyway, and him like saber rattling the nukes now is really making all the oligarchs go, son of a, oh my gosh. And the Russian people, they don't want to fight for this dude. They don't want to fight the Ukrainians. They're looking at their Telegram feeds, and they're seeing the death and destruction that's happening and their soldiers getting captured and just the craziness of it all. And, the Ukrainians have been pretty brilliant. They will only let the Russian soldiers call their mothers. So if they get captured, they're like, you want to call your mom? Yeah, I want to call my mom. So they call the mom, they FaceTime with their mom. Their mom's like, you got captured, you idiot. What is going on? Why are you there? And like, I don't know, Mom, everyone's dead. I'm the only one who made it. And I've been captured by the Ukrainians. I don't know why I'm here. And so they will release any Russian soldier so long as their mom comes and picks them up. Why? Because the Babushka network. These ladies will be able to tell all of their friends and family and everything else what's going on in Ukraine and what this crazy asshole Putin is doing. And that can defeat any propaganda that's being spread by the Russian government. It's a really brilliant move, man. It's so brilliant. And I just have to like tip of my hat to the Ukrainians who know these Slavic moms are going to be big talkers. It's brilliant. Okay. Super Castberg, how big is the universe? We don't know, but the observable universe is about 13.8 billion light years across. Right? It's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. 13.8 billion light years. It's crazy. So that's as far as we can see, because it just kind of fades into fuzz after that. We can't see any further. Casey Chapman, what's up, Houston? Did you read Ray Dalio's new book, Principles in Dealing with the Changing World Order? He shares an interesting perspective on the state of the markets and economy. I have not read it. I haven't heard of it. But perhaps I should put that on the list, because the list is really long right now. There's all sorts of things on the list. There's a whole room full of books on the list that I haven't got to yet. Okay. Aaron Salentine, Houston, do you believe the shorts are trying to short it to zero to avoid the dividend, or they know what is coming, so they're trying to lower it to close position to lower price? Yes. I think that's it. I think for the most part, they really want those MMTLP shares to be super cheap so they can gobble them up and delete those Torchlight synthetics that way. But man, I don't know what they're going to do, because all people I know, all they've been doing is buying those MMTLP shares and not selling them. So I don't know who they're buying them from, right? Unless more nakeds are being generated that way somehow. I honestly don't know. If I were a hedge fund looking at the price of oil, I would not want to be short on any of that stuff. That just sounds like a terrible, terrible idea. I mean, oil's at, 110 right now? Come on. Oil prices are at clickety 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 click 112 for Brent crude. Yeah, so oil prices are going nuts right now. And if you shorted Torch at 21 cents when oil prices were $20 a barrel, and now you're at 112, you're at 6 times essentially the price that you shorted that oil company at. And the oil field that was essentially worthless is now worth $4 billion. You're screwed, man. You are so screwed. You just made the dumbest choice in the world. I mean, someone sent me a thing showing that Melvin Plotkin had dumped a huge amount of money last month into Russian stocks. These guys are not that smart. Like, Plotkin is in so much trouble financially, and his big move to save his company is to dump a bunch of money into Russian stocks on the eve of Russia invading another country, facing sanctions. What type of moron does that? It's bewildering to know, like, what type of dummy Gabe Plotkin is. Oh, he's the greatest trader of our generation. How? How? He loses everything. Everything he touches just turns to turds. He's like King Midas in reverse. It's absolutely crazy. Okay. And a rule that Houston bought more metamaterial to average down. Yay! But seriously, when do you think they will announce Divvy info? March 31st, 11:59 p.m. I don't think they'll announce any Divvy info until they finalize the Oilco stock ticker thing swap over. I doubt they're going to do anything before that. So maybe we'll have more predictions after that happens, whatever time this month that happens. I don't know. Totally don't know. Forest Fire HW, what do you think of metamaterial delaying the announcement of dividend? Good news because oil spiking? Probably. I mean, they must be like, oh, we got a good deal. Someone offered us $2 billion for this. And then oil doubles. And we're like, hold that. We got another phone call from someone else. Oh, we'll take $4 billion. Whoop, oil just went up another $20. Hold that. Oh, we just got another offer for $5 billion. I bet that's what's happening right now. Is that they are fielding offers and like you just don't want to pull the trigger because oil prices are just screaming, and all the predictions are that oil can be $150, $200 a barrel before this is all over. You know, and obviously no one wants to paper hand it. If it's worth $4 billion at $100 a barrel, well, in 2 months, when it's at $200 a barrel, what are you going to do, right? You don't want to paper hand it. So you also don't want to like hold it so long that it goes over that crest and crashes again because some economy collapse or whatever. So I'm sure that there's lots of folks and lawyers and accountants and analysts that are just trying to figure out where that peak in the curve is going to be. Forest Fire also says, if there's so many shorted stocks, how could they keep this balancing act up for so long? Does only one domino need to fall for everything to fall? Metamaterial, Divvy, BBig, etc. By the way, what's BBig's update? I don't know what BBig's update is. I've not gotten that share they promised 4 months ago into my account for that other stock that was be their dividend. BBig. I know they did another acquisition recently. It's 258. We got Investor Place saying Vinco hasn't finished its fall despite recent blip. And then Investor Place 1 week ago. So this is funny. I'll put this sucker up here. One headline for Investor Place from yesterday. Vinco Venture stock hasn't finished its fall despite the recent blip. From the same group a week earlier, Vinco stock looks scary as it continues its acquisition plans. Like, okay, Investor Place. You guys obviously don't know what you're doing. But they're gobbling. It sounds like they're gobbling up more. I mean, they're doing so much gobbling that their net profit margin is down 24,000%, right? Because they're just consuming right now. So, the revenue is only $2 million. They lost $500 million. What? This is from September. So I'm wondering when's their earnings call? When is their earnings call? Come on. April 8th. Okay, we've got a while until they do their earnings call. That's weird. They do their earnings call for quarter 4 at the beginning of quarter 2. Strange. So they must be waiting for something to be holding out that long for their earnings call. But I don't know, man. They're shorted so incredibly much that it doesn't matter what their value is. It's kind of like AMC or these other companies. Like, if everyone holds and refuses to sell, it doesn't matter what their earnings report is, because if they're forced to buy, they're forced to buy, and they have to buy what we have, regardless of whether they like the price or not. Remember, just as recently as this fall, the reported short interest, not the unreported, the reported short interest was 270%. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Okay. Lemon Monkey Houston, happy birthday. Please talk about the future of internet and technology in this Western and Eastern divided world. Is it good, bad? Oh, man. There's a rat's nest of... Yes. It's both. Like, I love the advantages of being able to communicate with people from around the world. Like, being able to sit here and talk to you folks who are all over the planet is such a cool thing. I mean, 30 years ago, I couldn't have imagined doing something like this, being able to stream videos like this across the internet and connect to everyone. I remember in first grade, I had a pen pal who was like in England or something. And so for like all of first grade, we'd write each other terribly worded sentences and we'd go back and forth. No idea who that person is, where they are, what the name, I don't remember what the name is or anything. But like, I now have 200 pen pals that through Twitter DMs I am in contact with constantly. It is phenomenal. And the amount of information gets shared is just fantastic. The people I've met and the people I now consider friends, even though we've never like shook hands in real life, is incredible. But there are massive drawbacks to this kind of ubiquitous technology. You have things like the social ratings that China is doing. You can have facial recognition software, software that can monitor your every movement, and there's all sorts of privacy concerns, and the crimes that are committed and the atrocities that are committed using disinformation. And so it's really like a give and take. Like, we need some sort of benevolent authority to be able to wipe the bad stuff out of the way and keep the good stuff. But, anyone we seem to give that power becomes corrupted by it and fails miserably at that task. So I don't really know what the solution is, if there is one. I kind of hope that the white hat hackers at, the anonymous type guys, that they keep a lot of that stuff in check. They're doing a magnificent job going to war with the Russian hacking groups and with Russian government services. Apparently they hacked the Russia space program and may have control of satellites and their GLONASS system and all sorts of stuff. Like, Russia could very really be flying blind if that's true. And that stuff's incredible. Also terrifying, right? Yeah, future technology, man. I don't think anytime in the near future we're going to be having like brain implants like the Neuralink, like Elon's saying. Just the stories of the horrors that were committed against the poor monkeys and stuff that they were testing on shows that they're not ready for human subjects, even though they're asking for human volunteers to get their heads cut open. That would just terrify me. they just like slap out your brainstem or something, and then you become this vegetable, and you signed away some sort of arbitration clause that says like, you know, your family will get $60 and a handshake and a shrug on the shoulders. I wouldn't volunteer for one of those. Okay, Minnesota Slims, left turn. What is your favorite sci-fi movie, and why is it District 9? Oh, and why is District 9 totally underrated? District 9 is a fantastic movie, man. I think it's underrated because it was filmed in South Africa, like about South Africans in South Africa. That's probably why. And that, you know, larger audiences, Americans don't give a shit. But District 9 is a really good sci-fi movie. My favorite sci-fi movie? Most fun? Probably Fifth Element. That's just a fun movie. The Matrix is up there, definitely in, you know, the top 5 range. It's one of the better action films ever made. What other sci-fi movies really get my rocks off, monkey? I mean, I've enjoyed sci-fi TV shows more than sci-fi movies in general. I mean, I've seen great sci-fi movies, don't get me wrong, but like Battlestar Galactica is probably my favorite television show of all time. I really liked The Expanse. I really liked Firefly and Serenity. They just, you know, you're able to explore more and like test different avenues of thought. And like, I know when people were looking at the Orville, which was Seth, what's his butt from Family Guy, his kind of parody of Star Trek, people think it'd be much more like slapstick, but really it's actually kind of brilliant sci-fi, where each episode he just sort of asks a question about society and the future, and then explore it with maybe a couple of jokes thrown in. But I think it's, you know, if you go into it not expecting a slapstick parody of Star Trek and instead see it as like its own unique exploration of sci-fi concepts, I think it's really good. Yeah, so there's that. Man, okay. We'll do some more pondering on that. Hal Williams, thank you for the pair that does fist bumps. What is with the pair on YouTube? I don't understand. I don't understand why certain like little emoji dance things have like sort of their own unique brand on different platforms. So you have a dancing pair on YouTube and why that's the thing. Okay. Lost Waves, did you hear about Cain Velasquez? No. Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez arrested on suspicion. Oh, it's ESPN. Attempted murder. What the heck? Okay. Arrested Monday, attempted murder, booked Santa Clara, California jail. Held without bail. Santa Police announced Monday there was a shooting near city intersection of Monterey Highway, Bailey Avenue. Police said one adult male was shot at least once and transported to a hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Identified Velasquez as the shooter. Motives and circumstances surrounding this incident are still under investigation. Two-time UFC heavyweight champion. California native, blah, blah, blah. Huh. Interesting. Huh. Well, that's news to me. No, I did not hear about that. Well, don't shoot people. And don't do it when people can identify you, I guess, is the moral of that story. I mean, I know most crimes are like a crime of passion, but if you're going to commit a crime, and it's going to be heinous, you really have to, like, slow down, think about it, be stronger than your lizard brain, I guess. I don't know, man. Yeah, okay. But no, that's crazy. Paratarian Houston, could you maybe go into what could happen with a possible stock split with G-America? Ooh. may be similar to what's happened with other stock splits. So you have potential. So let's say GameStop issues a share of Gmerica for every share of GameStop that exists, right? They do a spinoff, but they make it a wholly owned subsidiary. So they GameStop itself will own, say, 100 million shares, and then the rest of us get 70 million, right? Because that's the 70 million that are issued to everyone else. And so therefore GameStop holds control, and it's not a publicly traded company. It's totally private, and there's only those 70 million shares. Well, that's all that gets given out. So what has to happen is all of the naked shares we have then get a synthetic Gmerica share. Just like with MMTLP, with the Torchlight preferred share dividend thingy. And so now there could be billions of fake Gmerica shares that aren't traded, that are stuck in people's accounts. And, let's say a dividend is issued for it. Like Gmerica takes off and they issue a $2 dividend. So they give out $340 million in dividend to everybody. The 100 million shares at GameStop, the 70 million everybody else. And then there's 2, 3, 4 billion shares of Gmerica that don't get anything. Because now those 4 billion shares have to come up with $8 billion in cash to put in everyone's accounts. And all of a sudden, there is a forced recall of all the folks that had synthetic shares in their accounts. So all the brokerages that had to make these little synthetic Gmerica shares have to do a recall because the hedge funds aren't paying their payment in lieu. And I'm not sure exactly what happens with it. Trading is going to have to happen, or they're going to have to buy GameStop to make up for it, or something, right? That's going to become a sticky wicket. Yeah. Now I'm like pondering over in my head. I think something similar, kind of how metamaterial might rocket as a result of an announcement of a dividend out of MMTLP, or BBig for that matter, with their thing. Bill Cohen, every sci-fi movie and almost all sci-fi books leaves out one thing. We need the existence of technically in our bodies to explore space, possibly rebuild our bodies, completely more machine. I'm talking about nanoparticles, nanotechnology. That'd be interesting. The Red Dwarf books. I know I've recommended Red Dwarf, like the TV show and the books to you, but seriously, the books are some of the best sci-fi I've ever read. Absolutely phenomenal, and they're brilliant and they're unique. But there's a lot of talk about, like, in the future, these nanobots, and their job is to like go in and like work on things, and they're small and intelligent, and they know how to like repair bodies and kill cancers and all this stuff. That technology is really cool, in theory, but in practice, like, isn't that what the latest James Bond movie is all about? Right? Like, you have a particular disease that gets in you, and if you touch somebody else, it can kill them because it's like a designer virus for their immune system. That's kind of nanotechnology. That stuff seems kind of terrifying. But yeah, having a benevolent nanotechnology that's there to help and cure things would be fan-friggin-tastic. Wouldn't it be great? Like, every night you go to sleep, the nanobots go, oh, I can get rid of this little polyp or tumor and fix this cyst, and like, oh, I'm going to clear out this plaque for you. And, looks like these wrinkles are forming, so I'm going to put some stem cells from these cells in here and get them all fixed up. And, oh, your liver's been punished recently, so let's just, carve away and fix that. That'd be fantastic. I would dig that kind of future, but might be a ways until we get there. Cameron Mirza asks, do you think the war will end? Oh, man. We may be months away from that. I think it's going to go... Excuse me. I think the Russians are... At least the Russian Air Force is probably going to start bombing a lot more and just leveling cities, kind of doing what they did in Grozny, in Chechnya back in the day. That was Putin's MO in the smaller nations that really couldn't fight back, was just, you just bomb them to hell and then take some faction, some minority faction that will back you and put them in power. And that's what they did. They, even the Russians pre-Soviet Union were using like the South Ossetians in Georgia to wage war against the Georgians. And then when the war was waged and the Tsar took over and then the Communist Party took over, they made Georgia into its little Soviet satellite and included South Ossetia in there. And then when Soviet Union fell, the Russians backed the South Ossetians again in attacking Georgia. So in early 90s, in 2004 and 2008, all three of those skirmishes or wars were started because the Russians gave the South Ossetians a bunch of weapons and had them like ambush Georgians and shoot them all. In this attempt to make a small little sliver next to the Russian border, the Russians say, oh, these people want their independence, so we're going to come in as peacekeepers and make sure the state remains independent. We're going to have to just bomb a bunch of Georgians in the process. The document for the reasons to invade Georgia is exactly the same as the document the Putin submitted for reasons to invade Ukraine, just with Georgia and Ukraine swapped. That's it. It's word for word the exact same excuse. Assholes are really predictable. If you have spent any time with an asshole, you can just predict exactly what they're going to do, because they're going to do the most asshole thing possible. And so now that Putin is realizing, oh crap, my ground forces are getting their asses kicked, he's going to move to basically war crimes and start leveling cities until he gets people to kowtow to him. And I think that's the next step. Is we expect a lot more nightly bombing runs, expect a lot more shelling of residential areas, expect more war crimes, and it's not going to work. Right now, the Ukrainians have every asset of intelligence the United States government has. They're getting satellite photos and, radio chatter and hackers, and those AWACS planes are flying back and forth between Poland and Romania along the border, and they are giving every single solitary member of the Ukrainian forces like info onto where planes and drones and everything else are. Helicopters are coming in. They know exactly where to hit these convoys, and because it's mud season, the convoys are stuck on the roads and they're just getting wiped out. I mean, hundreds of trucks at a time, just by drones. It's very one-sided. So Putin has to somehow figure out how to get air superiority, and the fact that 70 new jets were just given to the Ukrainian government to do battle means it's going to be a while until Putin can probably get any semblance of air superiority in there. We've got tons of javelins, tons of stingers. We've got, anti-aircraft guns and radar dishes all over the place. They know what's going on. So, they're going to make it really, really hard for the Russians, and it's going to be dragged out. And I think the PR campaign the Ukrainians are doing is brilliant, because the Russian public is not behind this. The Russian trolls might be, but the public is not. But it's going to be a while until somebody, shoves Putin out a window. Little just desserts. Okay. Okay, Minnesota Slims, really appreciate you waiting on the intro. Best part of the show. Also, the charity shows are pretty cool if you are into that sort of thing. Yes. We'll be doing a charity show of some kind for some sort of Ukrainian relief. Someone will say, hey, we'll do a relief for like Ukrainian pets or something. I don't know. But we'll do something to help folks that are going to desperately need it. The supply chains are going to start getting cut off. They almost have no access to the Black Sea anymore. And so anything that comes in the country may be coming in from the borders to the west, so Poland and Romania and Moldova. So we may have to, I'll find some sort of charity this month that we can give to make sure people get fed there or something. Okay. Josh Walker, if China has to bail out Evergrande, will they be able to help Russia? I think both China and Russia underestimated the outcome of Russia invading Ukraine. I think China was like, yeah, man, invade Ukraine, and while everyone's distracted doing that, we're going to take Taiwan under the same pretext. And they shook on it, and they high-fived, and they bumped booties, and they're like, sweet. And then Russia invaded Ukraine, the entire world went, no, absolutely not. And Russia's getting its ass kicked. And so China's like, ooh, maybe we should rethink a possible invasion of Taiwan and not do that because the Russian economy is about to collapse to zero. And China sees like, oh, if we invade Taiwan, they block off all of our ports and they seize our trillions of dollars in assets around the world. We've got nothing because our entire economy depends upon us selling our plastic shit to the rest of the world. And if we can't sell our plastic shit to the rest of the world, we have nothing. And they're facing, $9 trillion in bond defaults as it is, 14 trillion, whatever it is between real estate and municipal bonds. And, if we've proven during this already supply chain issues that people can survive on less stuff as it is. Yeah, we can survive on less and just rebuild tooling elsewhere and just ignore China. And China might saber rattle, but they've got their 300 nukes versus the 6,000 or whatever everyone else has. I don't think they can afford to keep up the appearances if they want to invade Taiwan. I think it would result in the same type of sanctions, and then China would just be stuck doing dealings with Russia. And who wants to deal with Russia? Russia is a tiny little economy compared to everyone else. Their economy is smaller than Spain. Spain's not a big economy, so you don't want to cut off the gravy train just because you're pissed off that a tiny little island of people who don't agree with your governmental policies exists. It would I think it would just be a bad move in general. Okay. Praveen Kumar, will oil reach 120? I think it's going to go way past 120 at this point. I think it might go, Greg, I think it might go past 150 even. And Ricardo Pestic, Houston, do you think when Russians start feeling the effects of all the economic sanctions, they'll start a revolution? Hope this question makes it before the chat resets. Yeah, very possible. I think it's very possible. I am exactly 1 hour behind in the chat, by the way. So if you guys have stuff in there and I'm not seeing it, sorry. Esco General Sun, I wonder if Trump Tower is going to lose some Russian tenants. Yep. I think so. I think it's very possible. And there's Josh Walker talking about, did you hear Anonymous took down Russian spy satellites? Not sure if it's true. But wanted to be. I don't know if they got to the spy satellites yet, but apparently they hacked the Russian space agency's systems. So they may have access to that stuff at this point. I'm very curious to see. I haven't heard any reports of like the GLONASS system going wonky yet. That's like the Russian equivalent of GPS. And so, I'm not sure how useful that system is because it doesn't sound like that the tanks and stuff, the APCs and the UAVs and things that the soldiers are driving into Ukraine even have access to those machines. So they sound really antiquated. And so like they're getting fooled by street signs, by fake street signs and ending up in wrong areas. So it doesn't sound like they've got any sort of geolocation devices going on in those machines. Just in my head, is MMTLP in the same basket as GME? And if I buy shares now, well, I still get the dividend, or is it too late? If you get MMTLP, that's all it is. That's dividend. Metamaterials will not offer a dividend. Any dividend will be offered will be through MMTLP because that is the holder of the oil lands that are up for sale. But the folks who are short on the MMTLP, Torchlight, which became those, means if they get liquidated, they're going to be forced to buy metamaterial. And they'll get liquidated as a result of a gigantic dividend if it happens, which I'm hoping is over $20 a share. Okay. Oh, there's you bastards predicting the second intro. J-Dog, second intro inbound. Oh, you guys. I wish. Assholes are predictable, and so is Houston's friggin' incompetence with that little button. That little eyeball right there. If I don't have a little line through it, the intro's going to come right back on when I switch screens. Ali Gladio, Russian fighter jets flew over Swedish airspace. I guess we're on the list. Yep, they are definitely pushing the limits. They're upset that Sweden and Finland basically said, well, you know what, maybe we'll join NATO. If you're going to invade people for not joining NATO, maybe we'll join NATO, and then you won't invade us at all. I'm actually surprised at the restraint Finland and Sweden have had in not joining NATO all these years. It's kind of impressive. But, the Finns are absolutely terrifying. I would never want to get in a war with the Finnish people. And the Swedes have some of the scariest military inventions ever created. So, the Swedish engineering inventiveness and ways to be tech Vikings and slaughter people if they wanted to is absolutely bonkers. So there's that. Both those small nations have that going for them. Is basically scary Vikingness and technological superiority. Someone sent me a video of a Swiss howitzer drives, parks, and in 14 seconds is ready to shoot, can fire off 3 shots that can fly miles, and drop the gun and be driving before any of the shots hit their sight. Absolutely terrifying. You imagine, boom, 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 3 things hit you. A minute later, boom, 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 from a different direction from the same gun. What? From a mile away or something. That's crazy. That is just, scary, scary technology. Okay. Edward Conkle. I think Ryan Cohen is telling people to watch the Jon Stewart Apple special tomorrow night. Ooh, about GameStop. That's on. Oh, Jon Stewart has that podcast on Apple. I don't have Apple TV, so I'll have to look for clips of it, or just get my info from you guys who do have Apple TV. Tell me what it's all about. But yeah, he's doing some sort of special on GameStop. I guess that's tomorrow. So that's probably a good. That might be what Ryan Cohen is tweeting about. That's a good idea. Yeah, I like that one better than my Apple product release next week. That makes more sense, right, Monkey? Right, buddy? Oh, you're a good dog. Okay. And there it is. There's everyone laughing about the second intro. You sons of bitches. Josh Walker. If Greenland's ice sheet melts, will the isostatic rebound contribute to sea level rise? That's actually a good question. If we go back to the map here. Zoom out of Gabon. And we go to Iceland. Okay. So Greenland. So Greenland is 750,000 square miles, somewhere in there. And about 650,000 square miles of it is covered in ice. The average is 1.5 miles thick. Sorry for Europeans. It is 1 million kilometers. And the ice is between 2 and 3 kilometers thick for that chunk. Now, so much of that land is actually below sea level because the weight of the glaciers on top of it has depressed it down and caused it to squish. Now, if the ice melts, right, the runoff happens. And as the runoff happens, there's less weight on the land, and the land begins to rebound. And what is a depression might become a mountain of sorts, or a mountain range of sorts. Now, most of the ice in Greenland is on land, which already is not in the ocean. So I'm not thinking that it would necessarily, that rebound of land would necessarily contribute to an increase in ocean level rise. because I think it's just going to be the ice that's on that land going into the water that does it. Same thing with Africa, or that's Africa, Antarctica. Is that what we have is we've got like big ice sheets that block huge chunks of land ice. And these ice sheets are kind of slowing the fall of land ice into the Antarctic Ocean, and once those ice sheets are out of the way, there's going to be not really much holding them back from falling in the ocean. So we might see increased sea level rise. Now, sea level rise each year is more than the year prior. So in the 1990s, we're at like 1.3, 1.4 millimeters a year. About 5 years ago, we were at 3.3 millimeters a year. Now we're at like 3.6, 3.7 millimeters a year. And it's increasing on kind of a logarithmic scale as a result. And so every year, more land ice melts and goes into the ocean than the year prior, which results in a more sea level rise. And that's probably the stuff we got to watch out for is these big chunks of land ice in Greenland and Antarctica, and then to a lesser extent, the ice that's contained in glaciers around the world falling in as well. Okay. Project Sunrise 0 days on inter-accident. 40-ounce Oracle. Houston, what's your favorite Simpsons line or favorite Simpsons character? Oh, man. I really like Dr. Nick. But I think my favorite Simpsons line, I don't remember which kid said it, but there's an episode that's kind of Lord of the Flies, where the school bus somehow gets trapped on like a desert island, and the kids are starving. They're sitting around a fire pit. And one kid says something like, "I'm so hungry I could eat a horse." And the kids are like, "Whoa, that's pretty hungry." And then some other kid says, "I'm so hungry I could eat at Arby's." And all the kids are like, "Whoa." And that line kills me every single time. About once every 4 or 5 years, I think, you know what? I'm going to give Arby's a shot. I've had bad experiences there in the past, but this is the time. Maybe I just ordered the wrong thing. I'm going to spend the $10, and I'm going to go to Arby's. I'm going to try something. And every single time I go, it is the worst goddamn meal I've ever had in my entire life, and I do not understand why anybody supports that place. Yeah, they've got funny commercials, but that is not enough to support. Like, you drive across the country, and you're on an interstate, and you come to some podunk town, and at exit 15, there's a Denny's, a Burger King, a Sherry's, a McDonald's, a Subway, and an Arby's. And every single one of those restaurants is full of cars, and there is no one at the Arby's. Ever. I never see anybody at Arby's. The one time I go in every 5 years to give them another chance, there's nobody in there. I don't understand how they make any money, man. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Just in my head, does it bum you out to think about all the cool tech we won't live to see? You think Gene Roddenberry's post-wars utopia could happen with enough time? Ooh. I think it's somewhat possible. But I think the most important tech, and they touched on this in, was it Voyager? Crap. I think it might be Star Trek Voyager. So there was an episode where there's some sort of like prison transport ship with like the craziest, worst murderers in the area of that sector of space, and they got attacked by someone, and so the injured crazy murderers get brought onto Voyager, and then the ship's doctor fixes them. And one of the guys was this like unrepentant psychopath killer. And the doctor, like, while the guy's under, he's like, "Oh, look at this little problem in his brain. Let's just fix that guy right there." And the guy wakes up and he's like, "Oh my God, what have I done? I have so much remorse for everything. Oh my God, other people have feelings." Ah! And he fixed his psychopathy. And I think if we're going to have a utopian future, we are going to have some sort of fix for these currently uncurable personality disorders: psychopathy, sociopathy, and narcissism, megalomania. These things, without having a cure for them, and they're just going to happen randomly throughout populations. Without that, any utopia we create is going to be at risk of being taken down by, a Putin, basically. So we can make all sorts of crazy inventions. We can have replicators. We can do away with currency. We can, have all the love we want. But if some little psychopath gets in there and starts to manipulate and take care of, these naive, peace-loving people, they're gonna ruin us all. I think that's kind of that's where any nanobot Neuralink software of the future is going to have to take care of those personality disorders. 25% of our prison population have deep-seated personality disorders. Upwards of 10% of business leaders and politicians have them. It serves an evolutionary purpose, because if you don't give a rip about anyone else and you can climb over people to get to the top, you're going to have the best selection of mates and whatnot. And so there is an evolutionary driver for it. It's just that we live in a society now, and the society cannot favor the folks who, don't care about others, I guess. Yeah. Minnesota Slims, I saw your message. You think Disco Stew is a good character. Okay. All right. Where was that Simpsons character one? Okay. If U.S. confiscates all Russian oligarch assets, Trump might be getting away from having to pay back money he owes them. That's a good point. Yeah, if some of those loans are through banks like Sri Bank that don't exist anymore, he might be like, I'm scot-free. I hadn't thought about that. But then again, if those are promissory notes that get seized, yoink. I think he's going to owe Uncle Sam. Okay. Another one here. DEA got that dope. What do you think of John Malkovich's movie? What do you think John Malkovich's movie is about? The one that locked up for 100 years. Oh. Not a clue, man. Not a single clue. It's kind of Shaolin style. I am curious about like weird projects like that. I dig it. It reminds me of, the band Yellow? The ones like, oh yeah, the dude from Yellow is like a Swiss icon. He's old as shit. Let's go here. His Wikipedia is pretty fascinating. Turn off Chrome. Turn it off. Yellow is the band. Yellow, Wikipedia. Okay. Dieter. That's right. Dieter Meyer. So Dieter Meyer, this old guy here, he is the son of a Swiss industrialist, billionaire. He kind of went along the family lines, went to law school, and he's like, screw this, I'm gonna become an avant-garde artist, and quit law school and started making doing art and hanging out with bohemians and formed the electronic band in the 70s called Yellow. And because he's a billionaire, he can basically fund, has 30 albums or something. He's funded so many of them. But one of my favorite things is his family owns a train station in Kassel, Germany. And he put a plaque in 1972 that said, on 23rd of March, 1994, from 3 to 4 p.m., Dieter Meyer will stand on this plaque. And 22 years later, he came, stood in the plaque, and then walked away. It's it is the goofiest, funniest bit of weird avant-garde art, and I love that crap. So if John Malkovich is going to make a movie that he'll never get to watch, and other people won't get to watch, none of us who are alive will probably get to watch, but it'll just get released some point 100 years from now, hilarious. I'm all for it. I'm sad I'll never get to see it. But I approve of the weird effort right there. Because guys like Dieter Meyer I salute you, weird avant-garde artists doing weird things because you can. And that's, in my opinion, that's how you be a billionaire. You just do weird shit. You make art, you do weird shit. Yeah, money's pumping from whatever things, but like you're letting other people be the CEOs and managers and climb up through the ladder, and you just enjoying your life, man. The dude's 76 years old. He's still making weird ass music videos. He's still a Swiss treasure. And I don't know, like, I try not to stand billionaires, but Dieter Meyer has the weirdness in my heart going. Okay. But I don't know how I got Dieter Meyer from John Malkovich somehow. But what's it about? It's about John Malkovich going, suckers. Yeah, that's all he says. Just 30 seconds of that. And everyone's going to go to the theaters 100 years from now and pay $25 tickets. And John Malkovich's great-great-grandniece or something is going to be a billionaire as a result. Okay. Sorry, the chat reset, of course, and I am trying to find where it was. Peter Bartow, do you know the March date when shorts have to cover after T35 days have passed from Torch Legacy options expiring? I don't know. I have honestly no clue. That stuff is all the TA folks. I'd look at the Bird Lady. She might know those dates. I don't pay attention to that stuff. But I know that there's a date tomorrow where a whole bunch of ETF FTDs fail. Either that they generate a whole bunch of synthetic ETF shares, or they got to start closing through lit markets with GameStop. Girk posted a thing about it that they were looking at. So I'm very curious to see what comes of that. I'm very curious indeed. Hal Williams says March 11th. So when's the 11th? 11th is next week sometime? 11th is Friday next week. Okay. All right. I'm going to be totally out of it next week. I'm going to see if I can get some shows done. Just a reminder, my mom gets her surgery on Monday. She gets home on Tuesday. So I can do a show on Monday for sure. But Tuesday on for the rest of the week, I have no clue. Plus, I'm back on regular schedule at my friend's restaurant because the poor girl has long COVID and can't. She's been in and out of the hospital for like weeks now and can't work. And so I'm filling in, and I'm sick of walking on concrete. It's just, man, it hurts. So I'm doing like, I'm like, I'll do a couple nights a week for you. And I'm like at 4 nights a week right now. And I don't want to work in a restaurant anymore, but I'm a pushover. And I say, okay, fine, I'll help you out. But hope they tell them to hire people if they can. Okay. Kenneth Gaw, I dare you to say goodness gracious. I do say goodness gracious a lot, don't I? Maria Garcia, with oil prices spiking, how do you think it will affect metamaterial? I think it helps. It helps. It means the value of the Evergrande University lands that Torchlight had is worth more than it was yesterday. And that means the sale price will be higher now than it would have been a year ago. And which means the dividend will be more now than it would have been a year ago. And so each day the oil prices go up when a deal isn't signed means the sale price is higher than it was the day before. And I think it's going to be good because Metamaterial owns a ton of that stock, which means they're going to have just a giant influx of cash. And then when the dividend goes out, it means the folks are going to have to buy Metamaterial stock to make up for the fact they can't pay the dividends. So good. It's good. It's good. Online entity. Technically 77 is better than 69 because you get 8 more. Gross dad jokes. J. McGill, or J.M. Gill, not sure which. Houston, hear about the 2 monster black holes that are headed towards collision that will rock the fabric of space-time? I'm sure that our linear observatories are looking at that, and that's what they're getting. I remember I explained those to you, right? The ones that in eastern Washington at Hanford and the one in Louisiana, they look for gravitational wave anomalies that result from these giant black holes as they circle into each other. And basically, the center of gravity gets more powerful as closer they get to each other, and I'll describe it. Creates this like weird integral where the gravitational waves that come outwards become pulsating in a way, and we can measure that in these crazy little linear detectors, not accelerators, detectors. They're goofy. Okay. Untun Houston from Sweden, just a mental health tip. Consider skip past anti-vax messages in chat. At this point, they either enjoy getting you angry or are bad actors. Keep it up and we'll watch tomorrow. That's probably a good idea. I need to limit my rants over time. Maybe once a month until I can lose my shit on people. Yeah. Okay. Danette P. Houston, is Stanley Meyer's water fuel cell legit or a hoax? I think it's probably legit. I don't know if you guys know about that. It's been talked about for 20 years. So this guy created a motor that ran on hydrogen, but he didn't store hydrogen in a tank. He did active electrolysis, hydroelectrolysis, from a water source in the car. So if you guys don't know what that is, water is made up of H2O, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. And if you run an electric current through water at a high enough voltage, you begin to separate the hydrogen from the oxygen. And so you can build up a whole bunch of hydrogen as that process happens. So if you have a water source with this electric current running through it, hydrogen is coming out, and you're sipping off that hydrogen and feeding it into the engine for combustion, and you're just combining it with oxygen again, and boom, get yourself a nice explosion inside of the combustion chamber, and out comes water. That's basically what his engine was. And how he actively powered that electrolysis is what the secret was. And no one really knows how, like, they know how to do electrolysis, but how do you do electrolysis from an engine that's running and have enough energy to do the electrolysis and feed power to the engine? That's basically where the mystery is. They have some sort of special alternator that was doing that power. I don't know. But then apparently he was poisoned after refusing to sell it to oil companies for $1 billion, and all sorts of conspiracy theories go from there. But hydrogen engines are a thing. Toyota and Honda have them. They're doing all these experiments. They've got some hydrogen fuel stations in Los Angeles County, and for the last decade they've been giving people hydrogen-powered Hondas and Toyotas driving around and testing them out and seeing how safe they are. And there's pretty cool technology for hydrogen storage. Rather than just like keeping it as a dangerous compressed gas that can just be a bomb in someone's car, there's a cool system with this really porous, like sponge-like material where the hydrogen sort of statically bonds to the pores inside the tank. And then if you get a crash accident, the hydrogen doesn't just release and explode, but they still are still bonded to the tank walls. That's what GM was working on when they had their hydrogen fuel cell car. It's like 10 or 15 years ago. They built this really cool chassis, and you can like swap a truck body on it or a van body or whatever, but the drive-by-wire stuff was all the same. But yeah, I totally think that his fuel cell car was totally legit. Because we can make hydrogen cars. What is a mystery is how he actively did the hydroelectrolysis and powered the car at the same time is where the mystery is. Bullish on Houston second intro, which, you won today, second intro fans. HW stopping by to remind you that MOEX is scheduled by Friday. Have fun being a millionaire. That'd be fantastic. I'd love to be a millionaire on Friday. That would be great. That'd be just a fantastic day to become. Wouldn't you want to be a millionaire by Friday, monkey? Sounds like a great day to me. Let's do it, man. Let's become millionaires on Friday. Okay. Monty says tomorrow, March 3rd. So Monty says Thursday. Bullish and Monty are going to have to fight this one out. Okay. Oh, super chat. Oh, Grandpa Barney's here. Did I have power surge again? What restaurant on the island? I'll have you serve me. Just kidding. We can eat together. I'll buy you because you're poor. At my friend Brendan's restaurant, the pizza place, Bruciato. I'll be filling there a little bit. Hopefully they can get new people and I don't have to go there anymore. But you know, extra money. That means I'm just going to throw some money at some stupid plays and gamble it away on the market, because why not? That's what we do, right? But then I'm teaching again in the spring, so you know, I'm going to teach and not do that stuff. Okay. Barjay Sun says, one video I saw of an advisor disagreeing with Putin could tell he was a bit scared to stick his neck out. Yeah, I would be. I mean, you get a tea full of polonium or you end up in Siberia or shoved out a window. It's amazing the number of Russian oligarchs and military leaders who just find themselves trying to fly constantly out of tall buildings. It just seems like like lemmings or something. 40-ounce Oracle. Houston, I just joined Twitter like 2 days ago. Who should I follow for interesting facts? I can't wait to get into my first Twitter fight. Oh, I get in Twitter fights all day. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world. Well, what you can do is you can follow me and look at who I follow and follow all those people. That'll help you right there. When I come across somebody who presents cool information, like the most recent one is Open Source Intelligence Technical. They just doing a fantastic job laying out like what's happening on the ground in Ukraine, and I'm not sure where they get all their sources from, but I just think that they're probably military intelligence guys who are now private sector, and this is what they do. But yeah, I try to follow cool scientists, cool journalists, lots of comedians, because I mean, if you aren't following at least 50 comedians on your Twitter account, what are you even doing? You should at least be able to laugh 100 times a day from whatever crap that they're saying. That's what I recommend. Thinkers, man, just find them. You'll find them. Just start scrolling and they'll appear. Just methods. Houston, wouldn't it be bad for GME AMC holders if we seize the Russian assets because the possibility of using it to continue pumping the market? I think the opposite would be true, because right now we have Russian bonds going to zero, Gazprom trading at zero, Rosneft approaching zero, Russian banks just vanishing entirely. And so a lot of these were blue chip assets being held by institutions and hedge funds, and now they're worth nothing. So they're getting margin called on the fact that this chunk of wealth has just evaporated. And we've got international companies that now have to cut off business ties with Russia. So like MasterCard said, hey, we're not processing any transactions in Russia anymore, and they revealed that Russia is 4% of all their business. So there goes 4%, or at the top of MasterCard's earnings. Boeing not going to be sending any more parts to Russia. Matson and Evergrande shippers not sending materials to Russia. British automotive makers no longer sending Rolls Royces, Bentleys, Jaguars, whatever to Russia. These oligarchs are huge business for especially like those luxury brands. And so these companies are basically saying like, hey, we aren't sending the stuff there anymore, so expect some like profit losses because they are money bags for us. Apple's not going to be selling, phones and tablets and things anymore in Russia. So any part of the consumer market that Russia represented prior to last week, consider those sales gone now. That's it. Josh Walker, do you think Japan makes a play at Sakhalin Island while Russia is otherwise distracted? Thanks for taking all my questions. No, I don't think Japan takes around Sakhalin Island. Sakhalin Island's so entrenched with Russians now that it wouldn't do anyone any good. I think I've said before, my sister lived there for years teaching English. They do Russian now, man. It's been so long, I don't think it serves anyone any good. They may make a run at some of the northern islands on the way up to Kamchatka Peninsula that are not heavily populated and still have a large contingent of ethnic Japanese there. But I doubt it. I think for the most part, Japan's like, we're out of the imperialism business. Daphne, thank you, Daphne. Minnesota Slims, Postmo asks, can we make an Edison car company so Elon can die penniless like Nikola Tesla? What I think is funny is that you call a car Tesla and you have it run on DC. What I would love is to see the car that Tesla created. So Tesla made an electric car in the last century. And, all right, Tesla book. Where are you? Tesla biography. What did I do with you? There you are. This one, I think I recommended this one before. Tesla Out of Time. A Man Out of Time. This is a really good, succinct biography of his. But Mark Twain was a friend of Tesla's, and they took a drive. Is there a photograph? Might be a photograph in here of the car. Mark Twain. Can't remember. Where's Mark Twain? There's Mark Twain and Tesla hanging out, but I thought there might have been the car. Maybe not. No, just as big coils. But anyway, Mark Twain writes about getting picked up by Tesla in this weird electric car. And they get in, and Tesla's like, excuse me 1 minute. And he takes these weird crystals out of his pocket, and he sticks them in this little tray thing, and he pushes a button, and the car drives off. And so Mark Twain's asking about the car, and basically the car doesn't have a battery. It's just running off of the magnetic field of the Earth. And Mark Twain's like, that's spectacular. He's like, yeah, I know. And then shortly thereafter, one of Tesla's labs burned to the ground, and the car was lost forever. But Tesla was the type of dude who, once he figured something out, he just moved on to the next thing. He never went back to recreate his old stuff. So when his labs would burn down, basically any information in there was just lost. All the papers and documents and blueprints just gone forever because he'd be moving on to the next thing. So there's so much weird, badass science that's just gone. It's like the Library of Alexandria burning down and us having no access to the information that was in those scrolls. And so we have no idea how Tesla made a car that used the magnetic field of the Earth to power a motor and drive along. Not a clue, and no one's figured it out to this day. But he did it, and he was doing wireless transmission of electricity. He was doing all sorts of crazy stuff that we're only recently figuring out now. So maybe someday someone's going to figure out the magnetic field car. What is with you? You're making a weird face. You're making a weird face, you weird little dog. Oh, yeah, that's a good scratch. Oh, yeah. You're a good dog. Yes. Okay. But yes, forming a car called Edison would be hilarious. But Edison was kind of an asshole. So, it'd been more appropriate if Elon had named his car company Edison, personally. Okay. Great. Offering any Russian soldier $30,000 and a citizenship to the EU nation to surrender would probably be cheaper than sending billions in aid. It's true. Well, right now, the Ukrainian government's offering $50,000 to any soldier that gives themselves up. So, what's the average pay for a Russian soldier? Average pay for Russian soldier. So conscripts in Russia, this is 2016, earn $28 a month. What? Holy smokes. All right. By the way, this one says Russian military salary is $50,000 a year. Maybe for officers. That doesn't make sense. Conscripts, February 22nd, conscripts receive a stipend of 2,000 rubles, $30 a month compared to the... Okay, yeah, so this February 20... So $30 a month right now is the average conscript pay, and they get, a house. That is awful. The Ukrainian soldiers and those who volunteer, those who have now been conscripted in Ukraine and stay behind, they're making $3,300 a month, minimum, for the duration of the war. So these conscripts, right, in Russia, if they give themselves up, they get 50 grand. And fed and housed and all these things. That's a no-brainer. Sign me the fuck up. Why fight Putin's wars for $30 a month? Oh my gosh, that is nothing. That is absolutely nothing. Those poor guys. That's terrible. Yeah, they're stipend 2,000 rubles, $30 a month, which now is much less than that. That's now, what is 2,000 rubles? What's the Russian ruble trading at right now? Ruble to US dollar. Okay. 0.0097 dollars to the ruble. Okay. All right. US dollars to rubles, which is 102. That's got to be inaccurate. It was 108. So yeah, they're now making about $20 a month with the collapse of the ruble, which is going to be even more as time goes on. So those poor guys. That is not. Yeah. Dude, if you are a Russian conscript soldier who happens to have enough technology on your $20 a month, and you're watching my video right now, just give yourself up to the Ukrainians, get 50 grand, and just hang out for the next couple of years in Ukraine. Think of it as like Rumspringa or a gap year, because that 50 grand is going to go a long way in post-war Russia. You guys will be able to buy cars and houses and have a great time. So I definitely suggest, take that 50 grand you get from the Ukrainian government, and then I don't know, put it into GameStop. Well, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but if I had 50 grand, I would be buying 50 grand at GameStop right now. So there you go. That's what I would do if I were a Russian conscript soldier watching my program right now. I mean, I've never made 50 grand just in like 1 hour. It's a great way to make 50 grand. Okay. Chud McGruff Cakes. Hi, happy birthday. 2 questions. How do you motivate yourself? Serious question. I'm intrigued with your drive for knowledge. 2, I have 2 Russian APCs I'm looking to sell any connects. I'll answer number 2 first, which is eBay is a great place to start doing arms sales. Maybe the dark web. Also, did you know that the tax service in Ukraine said that if you capture any Russian military equipment, you will not be taxed on the transaction? So if you get yourself like a $4.5 million T-90 tank, complete with explosive reactive armor and all that stuff, you will not be taxed on that windfall. It is yours to do with as you wish, and there you go. I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because that stuff's being littered all over the country right now. APCs, they're $400,000 to $500,000 new. I'm sure you can get a couple $100,000 on the black market. There's some great on Facebook. There's some great like bug out vehicle Facebook groups that would love to buy them off of you. They're all convinced that it's always the end of the world next week, and they're doom preppers, and they will gladly buy APCs off of you. And if it has adaptive armor or explosive reactive armor, you can probably get top dollar for those suckers. All right, number 1, how do I motivate myself? I think my quest for learning things is actually based out of my laziness. I think that's what it really is. Is like, oh, I could do this one thing that would, be like laundry or dishes or something, or I could just sit and read all day. And I go, I'm going to read all day. And that's kind of, well, I mean, I am more likely to spend my days reading like this time of year when it's gross outside than I am when it's sunny and beautiful and Monkey and I can take nice, long, lovely walks together. But even then, we'll walk for a while. I'll sit on a park bench and read a newspaper, whatever. But I just like learning. I like gobbling up information. And I think because I like gobbling information because most of it sticks, at least in a, if not exactly, at least kind of a fuzzy comprehension of the basics. Like, I might not remember someone's name, but I'll remember a concept behind something. So when I was 7, 8 years old in second grade, I was in PE class. I didn't have glasses back then. I'm in PE class. Christian Schweitzer and I are throwing footballs back and forth. Whatever. Someone called my name and I turned and looked back and boom, football hit me right in the eye. I got this my first black eye of my life, this big, giant, swollen, my eye was barely open. And that's kind of, nice shiner. The next morning I wake up and I went to check my eye and see how puffy it was. And I just stabbed my finger into my eyeball and scraped my cornea. And then spent a good chunk of second grade with an eye patch on my eye. Because that's what you do when you scrape your cornea. So you gotta just have your eye closed and just wait for it to heal itself because it hurts like hell. But I'd gone to, my mom was in nursing school at the time. She had sort of a midlife crisis and went back to nursing school in her 40s. And she was doing her pre-nursing classes, I guess, at a local community college. And she was in this chemistry course. And she had to take me to the doctor's appointment where they're going to squirt stuff in my eye and look at it or whatever after I'd scraped it. And she had to go to class and couldn't take me back to school. So I was out of school and she took me to school with her. So I sat in all of her classes that day, and her chemistry class was the most fascinating one because the guys started talking about nitrates and TNT and dynamite and all of these nitroglycerins and cool explosives. And to this day, I remember his entire hour-long lecture about old dynamite and how unstable it is and why. And that was 33 years ago, right? Why do I remember that? I have no idea. I can't remember. I couldn't tell you people's names, but Alfred Nobel inventing nitroglycerin and dynamite and the chemical properties that happen to when dynamite ages, and one of the most, and as someone who goes into old mines to do prospecting, if you come across a box of old dynamite, GTFO, don't go anywhere near that stuff. It will kill you. Age and water really destabilizes that stuff and just absolutely is awful. So yeah, don't do that. Grandpa Barney, hey my brother, why don't you go on Jeopardy and make some money? That's a great idea. I'm so smart. I do want to go on Jeopardy. I haven't taken the Jeopardy test in a while. I need to sign up and do the Jeopardy test again. My friends who have been on Jeopardy, they keep telling me what the hell? Why aren't you on the show yet? And I have not. In the past, they used to do the test one day a year, and I would take that test, and I would friggin' rock it, and I just wouldn't be randomly chosen. I'd just be like, yeah, you did well, but you don't get to be on because your name wasn't pulled up, because a lot of people rock the test. So, I do want to go on Jeopardy. I love Jeopardy. I love it so much. I don't know, I think I could win a game. I don't know if I could be someone who wins 5 games in a row, or if I'm up against, someone like Amy or James Holtzhauer, one of those guys, they would kick my ass. But on any given day where there isn't some sort of super champion, I think I could win a game. I think I could win one. But if I'm up against one of those super champion, the Buzzy Cohens and those guys, they would kick my ass. Scott Henning, thank you, Scott, for the little super chat there. All right, we got a little bit left. Holy shit, I am an hour and a half behind in the chat. Jeez, my knees. I am so sorry. Okay, we're gonna skip down. If I missed your chats, I am sorry. Fire at me on Friday. Friday's probably gonna be another super late night show. So just know that's probably gonna be a late one, like after 9 or 10 p.m. West Coast. So you early morning Europeans, you'll be rewarded with the Friday night show. I got a lot to do on this Friday, especially if it's going to be MOAS Friday. We'll find out. Okay, wooden puppet HHO on demand torches for soldering and cutting through steel. That's true. There are those HHO ones. So, but I think that gas is already. Is there hydroelectrolysis system attached to those tanks, or do you getting the hydrogen, oxygen, whatever mixture on those? I don't know. That's a wooden puppet saying that. JB, do you think DMT lets your brain tap into additional dimensions beyond the 4 we are accustomed to? I think DMT lets people think they're tapped into additional dimensions beyond the 4 we're accustomed to. That might be where that comes from. MG says the Arby's is the best in Maryland and Virginia. If you say so, my man. I'll be in Maryland for a wedding in June. Maybe that'll be my one chance where I'm like, okay, it's been 5 years. Actually, I think it's been long. I think the last time I tried Arby's, I was still in college. I tried the Arby's in the Prince Kuhio Mall in Hawaii, and it was like, no, this is garbage. So maybe I'll try the Arby's in Maryland. Maybe I will give that a whirl. Scott Henning went to 90% GME, 10% AMC. It used to be the opposite. Ryan Cohen is a genius, superior to Adam Aaron. Anti-marketplace with massive. Thought on stealing for both. Well, the ceiling I think is pretty unlimited. I think the ceiling for GME especially, the ceiling is going to be ridiculous, and any number I throw out there will just seem silly, because whoever sells in that peak is going to be the luckiest SOB in the entire world. I think during MOAS, the floor for like GME is going to be 6 figures, maybe higher for days at a time. For AMC, might top out 5 figures. I could be wrong. It could go higher than that if the infinity pool stays together longer. But folks have a lot larger holdings in AMC, and they're going to see a lot more zeros a lot more quickly in their accounts and go, huh, I'm out. When you're facing down like $10 million, let's say you got 5,000 AMC shares and the price hits a few $100s, and all of a sudden you've got $10 million in your account, right? You're going to go, well, that's enough money to never have to do anything again. I can get out now, or I can wait forever. I think there's going to be a lot of people grappling with how many zeros they see in their account. And it's like that old boxing, was it Mike Tyson who said everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face? I think everyone has a plan until they see a ridiculous amount of zeros in their brokerage account. They all think, oh, I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden they're like, done. And I think we'll see a lot of folks doing that more than we'll admit. But when you can retire, you can retire. You can just check out, and who gives a shit if people are going to criticize you for it, right? I mean, that's kind of what Adam Aaron's been doing with selling off his own shares is he's like, well, I'm an old man. I've got to sell these shares. You know, my retirement's coming up soon. The dude's already worth $50 million, $100 million, whatever. Like, how much more do you need, man? He doesn't care. He's doing it for him. And that's what a lot of people will be doing. And I'll be curious to see exactly how many stick around for those infinity pools and just how big it's going to get. Okay. All right. Andrew Mendio, do you think there will be Major League Baseball this year? Will MLB recover considering its youngest fans are middle-aged? I think the owners doing a lockout right now is the dumbest thing they can do. Absolutely stupid. They are hurting their brand. Someone from ESPN said it best. He was like, if you got rid of all these baseball players and you got the next 1,200 best baseball players, the quality of the game would be so garbage that the game would die. But you go to any business school and you can replace those 30 owners with just some random chode and nothing will change. Like, there's nothing special about the owners. They're just rich guys who own a baseball team. That's it. Rich guys who can manage the finance of the baseball team are a dime a dozen. Basically, every rich guy you know can do that job. The ones who can play baseball and play it at a high level are few and far between, just like any other professional sport. And that's what people pay to see, and that's what people want to see. And locking them out is just a dumb idea on the part of the owners. Just give in, give the players what they want, and move on. And continue to be billionaires. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're scrolling down to the bottom here. Going to get a couple at the very bottom. And if I missed your questions, I apologize. Hopefully you can do them on Friday or next Monday or whenever. Jesse Lindsay, Houston, I'm not a big Gabbers fan either. Just eat the big beef, no cheddar. Feel the flaps of meat and you'll get it. Just sounds weird. Okay. Michael Harrow, Houston, a great way for people to gain a thirst for knowledge to take up interesting hobbies. Rather than looking at art, learn to paint. Learn to fly radio, control drones, planes, hobbies. Hobbies are fantastic. That's where I've done all sorts of weird, education. Most of my mineral hunting knowledge didn't come from my geology degree, but came from the fact that I had never looked for anything before. So, like, beyond going out with geology field trips and looking at different layers of rock or whatever, Hawaii doesn't have much mineralization, so there's not really anything to look for. But my focus in college was like I was interested in space mining. So I did geology, I did astronomy, I got the Earth and Space Science minor between the two of them. And when I graduated, I was like, you know what? I'm all about like mining the stuff in space, but never actually looked for anything on Earth. So I went out and I bought a gold pan. And I went to a little creek by my house and I panned out some flour gold that was brought down by the glaciers. And I was like, holy shit, that's gold in this creek and it's now mine. My brain kind of broke a little bit, so I went and bought a sluice, and I got more gold, and I bought a gold dredge, and I got metal detectors, and I ended up having mining claims all over the place. In a few short years, I was mining like crazy. And then the housing market collapsed, and tons of people out of work, and all of a sudden the mountain ranges where I was just by myself, like hunting around for gold, and gold prices were skyrocketing, were just full of unemployed assholes who they were looking for gold, but really just seemed like they were there because they wanted to have an excuse to shoot somebody. You're John McClane! And it got really violent, and I got guns put in my face too often, and I was like, I'm going to die trying to have fun out here. This is stupid. And so I stopped looking for gold, and I started doing gemstones. And because gemstones, people look for gemstones, they're like 90 years old, and they drive around a little RV, and they go to like little mountain ranges, and they tink, 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 and pull out a crystal, and they add to their collection, and they move on. And I could outperform any old geezer driving in their RV because I can hike and climb and lift and knock stuff over and blow stuff up in ways they couldn't. And before long, I was just mining all sorts of stuff in gemstones. When I was selling direct to jewelers, I was cutting my own stones. I was doing all stuff. I had, if you want commercial diamonds or you want diamonds from the United States, I am pretty much the only person who has a claim that gets diamonds in America. So I can sell those things for premium amounts of money. And that led me to, basically reading all sorts of stuff. Like, you just look around and you can find really cool books. This book is from, 1916? What's it from? When was it originally published? It is, I think it's a reprint of something from the University of Nevada. But this is 1982 is the reprint on this. But it's from... 1916. So, this is all about different mining districts in Nevada up until 1916. And it'll tell you about different areas of discoveries that happened. And, you start to just figure out all sorts of stuff about mineralogy that I didn't get in college as a result of sort of my hobby / business of like, I want to find gemstones everywhere. I want to look in every mountain range I can and see what I can find. And that just results in just tons of reading. Learning about how different mountain ranges got built, what chemicals were in the water when they got built, where these different hydrothermal vents were, what type of lava flows happened. Was it alkalic? Was it lamperite? Was it kimberlite? Was it whatever? And you just start going and going and going and going and going. And Project Sun used to know how to say Nevada correctly. Yeah, that's when you go there enough, you get stared at by folks who you're not from around here. That happens. But anyway, yeah, doing hobbies is fantastic. You just take a bunch of information and just dump it into your brain. I highly recommend that. That's excellent advice there, Michael. I think it's fantastic. Okay. All right. Is that it for me today, guys? That might be it. No bots today. That might have something to do with the fact that SWIFT payments are shut down for Russia, and all these bots and like the little guys that ran these bot accounts aren't getting paid anymore, and just poof, these bot accounts are vanishing. So, that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting to think about. Like, the number of Twitter trolls. There were tons of Twitter trolls this weekend that were like pro-Russia, that were just, I was getting arguments with them. I know they're from troll farms or whatever. And the last couple of days, not a peep. Dennis Miller, whose brain got broken by 9/11, he had a show on RT, on Russia Today. And he's like, I'm going to stop doing my show on Russia Today. You're not stop doing your show because of anything political. They can't pay you anymore, man. You're not getting a paycheck. So, of course, you're going to stop doing your show. Yeah, that's pretty weird to think about. Definitely is. Anyway, all right, I've gone too far. I need to start doing other things for the day. I'll see you guys Friday night, late. So those of you who are early Europeans and are trying to stay awake right now, I'll see you early in the morning on Friday, late for everybody else in America. But all you nerds that don't have any plans for Friday night, hang out with me at 9 or 10 p.m. and I'll see you then. Does that sound cool? Monkey butt, sound good for you? Yep. Wag that tail. Wag that tail, monkey. Yeah. Oh, you're too bored. All right. Later, guys. Have a good night.